Welcome to the Strangers on the Way podcast. I'm so excited to have not just a stranger on today, but family. Peter Chatain is our guest for today. He's my cousin. I've gotten to watch him grow up, and he recently is an Olympic medalist for the USA rowing team. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing my swag by Peter Chatain swag. But Peter, welcome to the podcast. So honored to have you here. And could you start off just sharing a bit about who you are with our listeners?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I was just at the Paris Olympics. I was in the men's eight, so there were eight people, plus a coxswain in our boat, and we got bronze. So I was really happy. Um, yeah, thanks for coming out and watching me.
Oh my goodness,
Um,
so fun.
and yeah, so I graduated Stanford in 2023 with my master's, and then the year before with my undergrad. Um, I rowed at like New Trier High School before Stanford, and that's where I started rowing. So I've been rowing for about like 10 years.
Wow.
Um, so definitely a decent journey. And then uh, I am now living in California. Kind of stayed out there after school. There's like a training center there in Oakland, and that's where I'm back there now, and I commute into San Francisco, where I work at Ello, which is an AI reading startup. So we help kids get caught up with their literacy and learning how to read.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. An accomplished life already. It's amazing. Can we go back kind of to the beginning of your rowing career? How did you decide, like, hey, I'm going to try this like 10 years ago?
Yeah, my dad, I mean, I had done like a bunch of sports, and I don't know where the idea came from, but he suggested like, hey, try out this like rowing camp. So I went to like a week camp. I think I was like below the age requirement, but I was like pretty big for my age, so they were okay with it. I think I was like 12. So I just did like a week camp during the summer, and I really enjoyed it. And then did the same thing the next summer. Um, did a week camp. I think the first week camp was at Michigan, and then the next one was at Navy. And uh, I mean, it was a pretty grueling schedule, I guess. So it's like not that typical where, when you think about where do you want to go as like a week camp for fun during the summer. They had us get up at like 6 a.m., like run to the boathouse, like work out and then get breakfast and then, do another workout in the evening, and then you're going to bed at like 10. Um,
Wow.
but I don't know, I enjoyed it. And then I joined the new cheer team the year after that, so in 2014.
So fun. What were some of your favorite moments or memories from being on the high school team?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot. I definitely like the relay sort of races that we would do. They're sort of like funny. It's like, okay, you have to like carry a cracker in one hand and like a weight in the other, and like run upstairs, or like just like various other things. Like we had to run with like six people holding an oar. So like everyone has to run at the same pace. And then maybe the older guys on the team would maybe like pull the oar a little bit, and the younger guys would like use the oar as like help a bit. Um, I don't know, those are some fun memories.
Yeah, that's so fun. So it was like fun and um, a lot of endurance, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then after high school, how did you pick Stanford?
Yeah. The, I had, yeah, I was looking at like a few different schools for rowing. I Yeah, I looked at, like the academics and like the rowing. And I think I think Stanford at the time was like it was like a good program. There were like Berkeley and Harvard and Princeton, uh, I would say like had like better results at rowing at that time. So uh, but I think there were like a solid contingent of people at Stanford that like over the years had like done well. I think the team was like smaller. Um, and yeah, I went, visited each of the schools. They have like official visits for athletes. So when they're like recruiting you, they like have you out to like see the team and like see what it's like to be at each of those schools. I think I was just really attracted to Stanford because like the sort of like spirit of the team like aligned really well. Um, like everyone was just super inclusive and they I don't know, they're all just like doing exciting things, which was really exciting. Um, like yeah, some of the yeah, they were just like I just felt like at home there.
That's so fun. I know, I think, well, being in like a team sport, where you're all dependent on one another, really, like, what was that like?
Yeah, I think that's something like a huge component of it. I feel like it's like everyone's trying to figure out like how they can help the rest of the team, how they can help like each other get faster too.
Mm,
Because like you have 8 people in a boat, so like you can get faster yourself, but it's also like a lot of leverage if you can figure out how to help the other 7 people also get faster. So there's a lot of like encouragement with like training in the off season and talking about like doing workouts together to like help people stay consistent.
that's so good. And then you also were majoring in some pretty like intense, brilliant majors. Um, how did you balance everything? It's like you were at one of the most, prestigious schools and majoring in was it computer science?
Yeah,
And
I did math for my undergrad and
Mhm.
then I did computer science for my master's. I think going into Stanford I was like interested in math, computer science and physics. So like I knew I wanted to do some combination of them. I like the idea of like kind of just picking whatever class I'm interested in at the time. And actually a math major with like some of the prereqs that I had gotten out of the way in high school that counted towards the degree. It had the like fewest number of classes, the math major. So for a lot of my time, I was able to take, like one math class, one computer science class, and then like either like a physics class or like another requirement each quarter. So I was able to get like a good balance that way, and kind of like explore all my interests.
That's amazing.
Like,
Meanwhile, doing some intense training.
yeah,
Wow. That's really admirable to be able to balance all of that. And yes. So then you graduated. Well, you also met a special woman, if I'm not mistaken, during
yeah,
college. Can you tell us about that?
yeah. So I was taking this computer science class. It was called CS 110. I think it might be like CS 111 now, but it's sort of like a computer systems class, and usually people don't like usually CS majors like don't want to take it because it's like a lot of work and some people think it's kind of boring. But my roommate had taken it previously and it sounded fun, so I took it. And I met Brianna in that class because she was sitting near one of the other rowers in my grade. And yeah, she was like, "Why are you in this class? You're not a CS major." And I was like, "Oh, I just wanted to take this because it seemed fun."
You're like to meet my wife. Just kidding.
Yeah. So I didn't go. So it's computer science classes, you can like they all have them lectures remotely. and like all the CS courses I'd taken up to that point, I wouldn't really go to lecture. I'd just watch the lectures like at a different time because I could fit it into my schedule better. But I made sure to go to that class.
I love it. Wise man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, we'll continue that story because I know it continues in Paris. But so then you graduated and uh, got your master's. And then
Mhm.
from there, were you like, hey, the Olympics might be possible? Like what happened?
Yeah, I think in like 2022 I was like um I guess in 2021 I did the under 23 team, which is sort of like one step before that, where
Wow.
everyone's under 23 years old. So I was on that US team, and we got like silver, like a really close to gold in the eight there. Um, and that was a great experience. And like, I definitely like wanted to continue on to the Olympics, but at that point my back was in just so much pain, and I had a herniated disc, which I still have, but at
Wow.
that point I was like, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really seem realistic to like to want to go to the Olympics at that point because it's just like I wasn't able to really train the amount that I need to. So the next year after 2021 summer, I was just like, okay, like, if I can heal my back, then I'll like try and go for the Olympics after college. But if I really can't heal my back, I think I'm gonna be done rowing.
Wow. Wow.
Um, and then
And
yeah,
it
obviously
healed,
I
I'm
was able
guessing.
to, yeah, it did like just, I asked some of the doctors, like, do you think this will ever get to like 100%? And they're like, probably not, no.
Mm,
But I guess that summer it did just get like all the way better.
wow.
And yeah, so with my back just like feeling amazing, I was like, okay, yeah, I can go for this. So I trained that last year at school with the plan to go and try out for the senior team.
Wow. What were tryouts like? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I was definitely nervous. So we just, yeah, so I just finished school and then trained for a few weeks in California and then go off to Princeton for selection camp. And it was basically like there were some spots that had already been sort of like selected because they weren't college students and they had been on the team like earlier in the year. So really um there were more, it was like, I think it was like more than half of the people were going to be cut. Um,
Wow.
so you're at this camp and like, we're all sort of, a lot of us are like coming off of college season, so they don't have like a ton of data on all of us. So there's like 2 weeks where pretty much every day, we're doing like three races and they're like back to back. And then each race, you have like two boats that are side by side, and then you race once and then you swap people and then you race again. And so like if you
Wow.
move into a boat and that boat goes faster, then you win that seat race.
Wow.
Um, and like to all the rowers that they'll know that doing that many seat races day after day is like pretty grueling.
I can imagine. So you did pretty well then, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so I would definitely say I was like more on the edge of that selection process. Like yeah, definitely came down to a few seat races.
Wow. And then they said, did they call you or tell you or like how did you find out like you made the team?
So that was 2023. Uh I mean, I think I mean yeah, at a certain point they like fewer and fewer people are showing up each day because they're getting cut. And then I think they called us uh, into a meeting. Um, I can't remember the like first way that I found out, but yeah, I remember they like brought us into a meeting and they're like, okay, like here's the eight. I think there was like a point where uh there's like another person who is still, I think, being considered for seat racing. So like there was like a sort of gradual, like I wasn't like completely sure, but it was like, okay, like everyone's gone except for like one person who can maybe break into the boat. But yeah.
Wow, that's so amazing. And then from there, did you meet the team of eight? And did you know any of the other guys at that point?
Yeah, so I'd known a lot of the other guys.
Cool.
Um I had done the junior team in 2017. So I actually had raced with like some of them like Clark in the four um in the Cox four back then, and I'd like raced with or raced against like a lot of the guys in college. Um and then I knew a bunch of the older guys too. And so yeah, I definitely had a lot of experience with them. And then in 2024, the next year, we did like another selection process to like reselect the boat, because that's how we do it. Like every year you have to make the boat. Um and most of the boat from 2023 stayed mostly the same. There were three rowers that changed out, and then we changed out the coxswain. So I guess like roughly half.
Wow, that's so neat. And when you guys were training, do you, in addition to like the physical training, do you do like team bonding things or like getting to know each other or like how important is that? Or is it more technical, like knowing the technical side and the endurance side of things?
Yeah, I think both are definitely important. I think we definitely focus mostly on technique and power.
Mhm.
And I think yeah, we the when they were selecting the boat for the Olympics, they're like uh yeah, they wanted to make sure there's like no like, oh, like this guy's like great and we all like him and that's why he's in the boat. They very much wanted to focus on like whatever's gonna make the boat fastest. And I think we're all on board with that. Like at the
Mhm.
end of the day, like yeah, whatever boat is gonna be fastest is gonna be the lineup that we want.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Okay, tell us about Paris. What was it like? Yeah, it was so fun. I got to be there and I was just in awe. But what was it like from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty simple. I love having I like the dining hall a lot. There are a lot of choices for food.
Love that.
I like the grab and go stations. Where you could just, grab egg brioche sandwiches or chocolate muffins. We usually like to get like I like to get a bunch of calories just in the morning because we're gonna burn a lot in the morning practice. So the
Mhm.
like chocolate muffins were like perfect.
I love that.
So I'd grab like one of those each morning.
That's awesome.
That's why I had energy for the practice. And then yeah, there were cardboard beds.
How
So
was that?
I liked it. I like a firmer bed. And they had like sort of like a foam or like yeah, like a foam sort of like weaved pad on top of the cardboard. It was definitely pretty firm, but the US they got us like also like some mattress toppers for it, which I didn't put on initially, but then I was like, okay, it's a little too firm, so I put
Yeah,
that on.
that's so funny. So this was in the Olympic Village, is that
Yeah,
right? Where and
yeah.
did you meet other Olympians while you were there? And
Yeah, I saw a bunch of people. I think sort of like the dining hall was probably the most sort of place where you'd run into people from other countries. You also would see like all the US athletes are in like we're in like one sort of complex,
okay,
and we're definitely the biggest team there. So you had a big house there. Um,
that's
yeah,
so
I ran into. Uh, I mean, yeah, I met a bunch of the other like rowers, which was awesome. like Ali's either and the Sinkovic brothers. So they're in the single and then in the pair. Um, and yeah, I get to meet Katie Ledecky, which was awesome.
Oh,
At the closing ceremonies, and yeah, I don't know, you see a bunch of like awesome people walking around like Simone Biles, and yeah.
it's so fun. Oh, I love it. Were you near your competition, like the other rowers that you were going to compete against too?
Some of them were in the village, some of them stayed in Airbnbs closer to the course because
Sure,
it was about like a 45 to an hour drive to the
sure,
course, so some of the teams like opted to stay closer to the course.
sure. Amazing. And then what were the races like? Walk us through like yeah,
Yeah, so in the eight, there's only like two races, and then if you don't win the first race, there's like a repechage in between. And we won the first race, so we were really happy with that. That was sort of like okay, yeah, like we just executed the same thing we had done when we qualified the boat, the same thing we did at World Cup 2. So we were pretty happy with that. We faced off against the Dutch in the heat. And so yeah, they stuck with us for like a lot of that race, and it was only in the last like 500 where we like stepped out in front. Um, and so that was definitely confidence building that we can just stick in it and grind away and then make our move at the end. And yeah, I mean the final was pretty similar. We stuck in our rhythm. We didn't get phased by the other boats. But yeah, unfortunately, we just didn't have enough to overcome the gap at the end.
mhm,
But we were still like well clear of the rest of the field.
yeah. It's amazing. I remember asking you when we saw you afterwards, like what you were thinking at the finish line. So I'd love to ask that again. Like what was going through your mind as you guys were about to cross?
Yeah, it was like I was really split in two. I was definitely like really happy, like okay, like we made it, we got a medal, like we're here. And then I mean in the moment you're like you're just trying to win, so you're also like sad that you weren't able to like make up that gap and weren't able to get the gold medal.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean it was yeah, it was sort of like those two thoughts.
Yeah. Well, the medal was amazing. The bronze, oh my goodness, I got to hold it and it was so cool. Heavier than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It was so fun. Afterwards, a group of us were like walking in the area, and it was so fun watching people come up to you, like asking for pictures, and just you had the medal on, and it was really neat. Yeah. So
yeah. So,
I love that. Um, what, yeah, what was it like being a part of like all the festivities? So like after you won, I know there were a couple like, um, yeah, just things going on where they kind of showcase the Olympic winners. What was that like? What was it like afterwards, just being in Paris and celebrating?
yeah, it was really fun. We we basically had like a week from when our race finished to when the Olympics were over, so we got to go to like some events like Taekwondo, which Brianna played or did growing up, and we went to like beach volleyball. Um, yeah, we got to got to explore the city a little bit. But I guess the big thing is went out for an excursion during that time to Mont
Yeah.
Saint Michel.
Tell us about that.
And yeah, and I proposed to Brianna there. Um we yeah, we had talked about proposing like around like when I'm in Paris. You know, it seems like a great time to do it.
Yes.
Um So, uh, yeah, I basically, I wanted to surprise her still, even though like she pretty much knew that it was going to happen like well, at some point during the trip. So uh we had sort of two parts to our trip. The first one was, yeah, visiting Mont Saint Michel, and then after the closing ceremony, we were going to go to the south of France. And she had sort of came up with the Mont Saint Michel idea like relatively last minute, whereas I had planned more of the like for more of the second part in the south of France. And so I know I was trying to figure out like, okay, like where am I going to propose? She was like, maybe a beach proposal would be fine. I'm like, okay, that's helpful.
Yes.
But then I was like, okay, wait, Mont Saint Michel seems way better. So as soon as she mentioned that, I was like, I jumped on that and planned that out. Um, so I hired like a local photographer there, and uh she had like she wanted to wear like a particular dress and like be ready for it. So I'm like, okay, you're just gonna have to wear that dress every day for 6 days.
I love that.
Because otherwise you won't be surprised, right?
Yes.
Um, so and then it was just that first day that I proposed. So
Mm,
she'd have to go through that.
I love
Um,
that. Oh, I'm so excited for you guys. What a
yeah,
like powerful week in your life for both an Olympic medal. Like it's
a busy week, yeah.
yes, it's so fun. Oh, I love it so much. Um, so looking forward, are you thinking Olympics in 2028?
Yeah, I'm just staying in Alameda, training out of the same training center that I had been training out of. So yeah, the plan is to yeah keep working and then uh work my way back into rowing. We get like a little bit of downtime now, because it's a long slog, 4 years away.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so powerful. Um, and then I know a lot of Olympians like yeah, they work in addition to their sport like you are. Could you tell us a little bit more about your job? It sounds so like impactful.
Yeah, so I had started working for them that first summer when I didn't know whether my back would heal or not. And I think I was just really excited. I'm like, this is, something good for the world. I get to work on like interesting problems because we're actually like trying to solve interesting problems in AI. And yeah, they were doing well. So yeah, and they were willing to I think there's a lot of like work ethic that goes into rowing, a lot of like teamwork, and I think they were willing to understand that like yeah, I bring a lot of those elements to the team, so but I might not bring like as many hours as like somebody who can work, like 60 hours a week,
Mhm.
because like 20 of those hours I'm gonna be spending rowing.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were just really awesome. So for the year leading up to the Olympics, I was working like hourly with them, so usually like 25 to 30 hours a week,
Mhm.
which was like a great balance. So I sort of had something outside of rowing, because it can get really tough when your whole life is rowing, and it's like, okay, if you had a bad day on the water, it's like, okay, yeah, this is like it can get like mentally tough.
Yeah.
Uh whereas like if you have other things, it's like one thing can go not as well, but the other thing's going well. Uh
Yeah.
so you sort of have like different outlets.
That's
Um
yeah.
yeah.
That's such a good perspective. And you had said too, you're kind of interested in meditation. Like how I would love to hear like how do you stay mentally strong while rowing, especially like an Olympic race? And then also how has meditation played into kind of an interest of yours?
Yeah, I got interested in meditation sort of like the end of high school and like in college, definitely a lot of the Stanford guys like meditated and encouraged me to meditate more. I think I think I definitely did a decent amount of like sort of formal meditation where you're sitting, you have like a timer, and you're really just trying to like increase your awareness of various things, whether you're focusing on your breath or you're just like listening to your thoughts. And I think that definitely helps. Like a lot of thoughts come up when you're at the Olympics. Like it's very easy to like get carried away with those thoughts, like at some point you're sitting down, you're like, oh shoot, like this is pretty important. And like it would really suck if I mess this up. And like, those thoughts can just keep going and going. But like, if you're able to, I think what meditation taught me is like you don't have to identify with like every thought that occurs to you. So like you can just be like, yes, that is a thought that occurred to me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that um I have to like identify with that thought and like get consumed into that thought.
Hmm. That's so powerful. That is really good. So as you were like thinking in the Olympics, did you kind of just like train your brain through that, like to help you just keep focused and strong?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of what helped for the actual race was just all the stuff we had done to, yeah, practice for that and get used to that. So we had done like a lot of races, a lot of like practice races. We didn't get to race that many other crews, but we yeah, we just once you've like had enough experiences doing it, you're just like, okay, yeah, I just need to do the exact same thing we've done before. Um, I think a lot of crews I've been a part of, we would say that, like we'd say, like, yeah, we're just gonna do what we've done before. We've done all the training. And I think it's one thing to go into it being like, yeah, like that's what we've done. Um, and and in this case, I did feel exactly like, yeah, I've literally done everything I could do. Um, so I think that was a huge component.
Yeah, that's so neat that it's like, yeah, just sticking to the plan, right? Or like
Yeah.
process. That's so good. Um, it was really fun for me to be with your parents, my aunt and uncle, and see some of your friends too. I know came like from Stanford, and um, what was it like? Just yeah, like having friends and family there um, with you. And I know you're really close with your parents, and your dad is like he was. It was so cool to see him just like so excited. I don't know, what's it like? Yeah, just having this, sharing this like win with your family and friends.
Yeah, I think it's really nice. I think yeah, I think it's really special to see like how happy they are. And I think like they've put in a lot of effort over the years to like make sure I'm fed or yeah, um make sure I'm like set up to do well. And like yeah, and I think, I there are a lot of events, like a lot of like time hanging out with friends that I missed out on just because I was training so much. So it's nice to um yeah, to be able to enjoy that eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. I cannot imagine the commitment, like, yeah, what you've had to sacrifice to go after your goal. Yeah, it's amazing. So if there are like younger listeners listening who want to be an Olympian one day, um, what would you tell them as they're growing up? And I know some of it, like, you know, you have to be a certain, like, probably got to be tall to be a rower, like tall to be a basketball player, but for things that they can control, like, what would you say to them as they like have that dream?
Yeah, I think I mean it's really I mean yeah, I guess as you said, like there are like some requirements, but I think it's much more determined based on, who's just willing to stick with it. So I think if find you can find a way to like fit your sport into your life in like the right place. And now like if you can fit it into your life in a way that like you'll be able to continue doing it for a long time, um, then that's really what is going to get you there. Um, I think, yeah, there's just a lot of the sports is like yeah, who's willing to just stick with it for the time that it takes. It does take quite a lot of time. So,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, you have to not get too impatient because, yeah, I think that's like a huge like difference maker is like, if you come into it being like, yeah, I'm just gonna do it like right away, 2 years of training, like you can train really hard, but um it really does like take there's like a lot of components to it that you have to build up over time.
Yeah, that's true. How did you, like, I assume some days you probably didn't want to get in the water or like how did you work through those moments?
Um Yeah, I think I mean it's not it was pretty easy when it's like okay, yeah, everyone else is just doing this, like you're just part of it. So you're gonna do it. I think, it's a bit harder when you go back and you're separated from the group. Um but I think when you have a goal in mind, it's like, okay, I want to make the Olympics. And, just think about that. And that makes it a lot easier to convince yourself uh,
Yeah,
to put in the work.
that's so that's very true. If you have, yeah, the goal at the end, that's awesome. Well, actually, I would love to ask too. What do you love about rowing? And if someone was like considering being a rower, if they have it, at their high school, um, yeah, what do you love about the sport of rowing in particular?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I really like the aspect of it where it's like, there's only like one type of stroke you have to take, and you just have to take that one stroke like really well over and over. Um, and uh, you can really focus a lot on just like this sort of uh like the small details and like perfecting those over time. And it's like pretty straightforward. It's like, yeah, you just have to aim towards this one thing, and there's not really like secrets. It's just like uh generally if you look online or ask coaches, like the path is like pretty straightforward. You just have to you just have to put in the work, um and if you put in the work, you're gonna get better. So uh there's not a lot of like yeah, I like the like straightforwardness of it where it's like uh you put in the work and the inputs and the outputs are pretty clear. And they're pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's pretty unique about a sport because I think like with basketball or volleyball, it's like dependent on so many different variables, and so
Yeah.
it's neat that there is like a technicality to this sport.
Yeah, I think I struggled a bit in like basketball. People always ask like, "Oh, what sport do you play? Basketball?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"No." Uh, I feel like I'd get confused a lot on the court.
Yeah.
Wait, where are we going? What's going on?
Yes, it's true. It's so many different things happening. Yeah, it's just a different, yeah, type of team sport. Ah, so fun. Well, if am I correct in that your coxswain was a woman, or was that for the Olympics, or in maybe a previous some
I
previous
think
years or high school maybe?
that was in college.
College.
Yeah, we
What was
connected.
that like?
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, so they just have to have like a weight uh minimum. So like if they're under that weight, they have to carry like an extra weight with them
Mhm.
to get them up to the minimum. And so I guess yeah, because they're not like actually propelling the boat, you can have male or female coxswains on both teams. Uh,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it was good, I think. I don't think there's yeah anything like too crazy about it.
Yeah.
But uh they steer the boat and they like motivate us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an interesting role. Like, do they really have an impact just like their
Yeah, I definitely think so.
position?
I think
Yeah.
Riley Milne was our coxswain at the Olympics. Hi,
Yes.
Bo.
Mhm.
Our dog is here.
Love.
Oh, he's excited. Um, yeah, I think so. Like Riley was our coxswain, and he had a call which is like get your mind right, and
Hmm.
he would say that a lot. And I always like that call a lot. Like in the middle of a race, you're like, it's easy to like get distracted or um, I like you need to like get ready for like the next push or something, or like you have to make a decisive move, like call like get your mind right. And
Hmm.
that just really like made me calm, like loose, because you want to be like this really tough balance of relaxed, but like pushing your body as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And it's really easy when you're exerting yourself to tense up a lot of unrelated muscles. Um,
Yeah. Wow. And so he would do different like phrases
Yeah,
throughout.
so you'd focus, yeah, it's different phrases, like the tone in which he says it's really important. I
Mm-hmm.
think when you're rowing and when you're exerting yourself so much, you like don't have as much energy for your brain. So it's like your like state of consciousness reverts to like some like childlike state where like the thoughts you're thinking are just very simple, like you can't really process anything that complex.
Yeah.
So like if the coxswain gets really like, oh my God, guys, like we're gonna lose it, like we gotta go now. Like if they get like really anxious, like you're just gonna get really anxious and then you're gonna row anxious and like you're gonna like you're probably gonna like start doing things out of sync with the rest of the boat. So they definitely play like a big role in that regard,
Yeah.
uh with
It's
like keeping everyone calm and moving together.
yeah. It's such a unique role. I wonder how it started like, oh, we're gonna have this person, not just everyone rowing, but
Mhm.
have this like it seems like really like an anchor to help like keep people in peace. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the smaller boats don't have coxswains. It's pretty
Mhm.
much at the Olympics it's just the eight that
Yeah.
has a coxswain. And I think they're in like maybe Cox fours, but like we're all facing backwards. So we don't actually see where we're going. I think, in a four single, like you see the lane markers, and that's kind of how you steer is like if you're drifting this way, you steer the other way.
Yeah.
But I think, it definitely helps to have a coxswain with, especially with the big boat. It's like really hard to steer them, like, because once you get going on one trajectory, like if you try to correct after you start moving, that's too late
Yeah.
because you're already going to continue. There's like a ton of momentum behind that. You kind of have to like proactively be adjusting.
Wow. That's fascinating. It's really, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I forget that you're not looking in the direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, any last like words of wisdom as an Olympian or anything you want to share with our listeners or anything to give them hope as they go after their goals as we close?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're a really young listener, like just have fun in your sport. Um, the seriousness can come later. Uh,
Mm, I love
but
that.
yeah, just find the reasons that you enjoy it.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so good. Well, Peter, thank you so much. I'm so honored to have you as my cousin and as an Olympian. Well done, and I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. This is super nice. Thanks for having me on, Lauren.